Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast focusing on e-commerce topics featuring interviews with prominent people in the e-commerce space.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations by Practical E-Commerce. My name is Kerry Murdoch. Networking and exchanging ideas can help many e-commerce merchants. One organization that promotes this type of activity is Shop.org, the trade association for online retailers. Our guest today is the CEO of a leading e-commerce services firm, and he's just been elected to the Shop.org Board of Directors. He is Scott Wingo. His firm is ChannelAdvisor, and he's here today to discuss Shop.org and its role in helping e-commerce merchants. Well, Scott, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Scott, you've just been elected to the board of Shop.org, and I think congratulations is in order. I know that's a very prestigious position, so congratulations to that board seat.
Thanks.
We're going to talk about Shop.org and your capacity as an incoming board member. And Shop.org is obviously a prominent organization. Could you tell us a little bit about it? What is Shop.org? When was it founded? What's its purpose? That sort of thing.
Yeah, one of the Shop.org is a subset of NRF, and NRF stands for the National Retailer Federation, and that's a trade association for retailers. That's a very old organization and very, very big and very influential in the world of retail. And in the late 90s, I think 96, they decided to start a focused group on e-commerce to both help existing brick-and-mortar people understand and create a forum for the retailers that were working in e-commerce, but also to kind of welcome in a whole new generation of retailers, those that are what we call pure plays that were e-commerce only. So effectively, it's a trade association that is focused on e-commerce.
So its mission to help merchants further the industry, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like any organization, it's got a lot of different missions or components to the mission. One of them is just to provide a forum and a community kind of aspect for online retailers. So that's one leg of one of the pillars. Another one is they do quite a bit of lobbying and working with Washington on those kinds of issues that relate to e-commerce. And then, third is just a lot of sharing of best practices and those kinds of things amongst the communities that they've built.
Where does it get its money? Is it member fee driven, or?
Yeah, it's a nonprofit, and the revenues essentially come from membership dues, trade shows. Probably the thing Shop.org is best known for out there in the world is they coined the phrase Cyber Monday. So they actually run a site, cybermonday.com, that generates, it's like a comparison shopping engine for Cyber Monday. That generates quite a bit of revenue that is goes towards some of the philanthropy things that they do at Shop.org.
What's involved when a CEO such as yourself, you're sitting on the board now? What's involved exactly? Is it how long is your board term, for example, and how often do you meet as a board?
Yeah, so the Shop.org board has around 20 members. Most of them are retailers, and about 5 or 6 are vendors. We're in the vendor category. And what we do as a board is help the organization, guide the organization, give them feedback. Just like any kind of business, sometimes you get so into the day-to-day that you have to pop up and kind of say, what's the strategy? So at the board, what we do is we help Shop.org formulate a strategic plan, make sure they're executing against that plan, and give them a lot of feedback on what we're seeing out in the world of e-commerce. The board members are elected for 2-year terms, and you can be reelected. I don't believe there's term limits per se, but it does turn over at a fair amount because there's a fair amount of work involved. So most people run 1 or 2 terms and then kind of phase out and let someone else kind of come in and bring in fresh blood. What we do is we meet 4 times a year physically, and then I think there's a fair number of other kind of ad hoc meetings to go over things like if they're going to hire someone or something like that, then we may get involved in some of those kinds of things. But the primary commitment is meeting 4 times a year.
You mentioned there's a fair amount of work involved for setting on the Shop.org board. I have a feeling that running ChannelAdvisor keeps you more than busy. And to play devil's advocate with you, Scott, for a sec, is why does a man in your position sit on the Shop.org board?
Well, we think that this industry is pretty important, and we're excited to be a part of it. And certainly at ChannelAdvisor, we feel like we have a pretty big influence with over 3,000 customers. But we want to, we think it's important for e-commerce to head the right way, and Shop.org is kind of the premier body that helps make sure that happens. So we think it's important to contribute to the macro side of things as well as just the company.
As you know, Scott, our listeners are mainly smaller e-commerce merchants, and for those listeners, what would Shop.org, you've alluded to what Shop.org does, what its mission is, what are some tangible ways that a smaller merchant should contemplate joining Shop.org? There's obviously the annual trade show, which is a hugely helpful event. Just talk to our listeners about what's in Shop.org for them.
Yeah, there's tons of programs. So I'm glad you bring that up, because one of the reasons I really was excited about doing this interview was we're very pro small, medium-sized e-commerce business here at ChannelAdvisor. We have about 3,000 customers, and 200 or 300 of those are name brand, larger retailers. But the bulk of our customers are really very entrepreneurial, and we love working with that customer set. And I think that they are in many ways driving a lot of the growth of e-commerce. And one of the things I want to bring to Shop.org is the view of that smaller retailer. So to that point, I think there's actually a lot there. As a small retailer, you have several options. You can go to something like an eBay on location if you're into eBay. You can go to Internet Retailer, is a very popular show. But what you'll find at Shop.org is, because it's tied in with the larger retailers, you get a very interesting view of e-commerce from their perspective. And a lot of the things that happen in retail offline, are definitely applicable online. So what I think it would bring to small businesses is, what if you could talk to the VP of Best Buy and learn something from what they have to offer of running a mini billion-dollar e-commerce kind of an effort. That's the kind of speakers you have and people you have access to as part of Shop.org. So a lot of it is, how do you talk to those the much larger companies and get exposure to them, and I think Shop.org can really deliver that. And consequently, they love to hear from entrepreneurial companies, because what's nice about e-commerce is it is a level playing field, and some of your smaller businesses come up with great ideas. So I think there's the community aspect, best practices from the larger retailers that a small business could get, and then there's actually 2 shows a year. There's the upcoming summit, which is held in September every year, and that's really kind of the big show where you get together and really kind of plan out the last kind of things you can do for the holiday and share best practices. And then there's a merchandising event every year as well that's really primarily for the marketing side, and that's very well attended as well.
Now the summit this year, where's that summit at again? That's
in Boston.
Boston this year. Yep.
Yep.
It changes every year, the location. Is that?
It does. Yeah, They like to move it around to give lot of different access to people. It was in Dallas last year, and it was like in Orlando the year before, and Vegas the year before that.
Yep. Your firm, ChannelAdvisor, you're the co-founder of that firm, of course, the CEO. For listeners that aren't familiar with ChannelAdvisor, could you tell us about what you do and what new initiatives ChannelAdvisor has these days? I should say it's 10 years now, right? ChannelAdvisor was founded in 2001?
Yeah, we're celebrating 10-year anniversary this year, so we're excited about that.
That is terrific. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks. Yep. So we're a software company, and we have software. It's all what's called software as a service, meaning you use your browser to access it. You don't have to install it on servers or anything like that. And retailers use our software to help manage what we call e-commerce channels. So things like search, so paid search with Google and Yahoo and Bing. Comparison shopping engines, we support over 110 comparison shopping engines. And marketplaces like eBay, Amazon, and it's actually interesting, there's been an explosion of marketplaces. We also support Buy.com, Sears has a marketplace, and then we also help people with web stores, so we have an integrated web store capability that's really based off of this fundamental belief that the e-commerce channels is where you drive a lot of your sales. And that's really what we offer at ChannelAdvisor. It's all integrated, so you have one centralized location where you can manage your inventory and orders and all these different channels. And really drive your top-line growth as a retailer.
So, a merchant listening to this that's interested in pursuing additional channels, how does he plug your services into his cart, and what's that going to cost him? If he goes to your company and says, "I want ChannelAdvisor to feed my products into these half dozen comparison shopping channels."
Yeah, our pricing is tiered, and on the low side, what you're looking at is somewhere a monthly commitment of $500 to $1,000, and then a small percentage of revenue share, so that's the economic model. And then the way it works is, you send us your inventory, and there's a million different ways that we can work on that. When I say inventory, I mean a data feed of your inventory, not your physical inventory. And then what we can do is we can take that and then optimize it for all these different channels out there that we've been talking about. So usually it's a pretty simple model to get started with us. Most of the e-commerce carts already generate some kind of a file that we can work with, but if they don't, we can work with internal systems. A lot of small businesses actually use us as their inventory system. We have a pretty robust inventory system that a lot of small businesses use us for. Usually what happens is someone starts doing something manually, like let's say they start selling on eBay or on their e-commerce site, and they get to the scale where they realize they need more automation in their business. That's where they'll really call ChannelAdvisor, and we can help them both automate their business and take a lot of the manual steps out, but then also expand their business pretty rapidly by getting into these new channels.
Okay. Anything else on your mind today, Scott, as it applies to shop.org and your new election to that board and that organization?
No, I would love to hear from any listeners that want to learn more. One of the nice things about shop.org is they do have a tiered fee structure where it's, the small businesses, they're trying to appeal to them on the fee structure there. And if people want to go to the shop.org website and see the different programs and what's available, we'd love to have them as members.
Do you have those fees in front of you? A listener that's with a small business, what would it cost them to join shop.org? Do you have that in front of you? Or
I do.
Yeah.
The way it works is it's tiered by your revenue. So if you're $10 million and under, then that's $2,750 a year. And then if you kind of work your way up, it adds about $1,000 as you go from like 10 to 50 million, et cetera. But all that's available on the website. So essentially for $3,000 a year, you're getting access to hundreds of the top retailers, content you can't find anywhere else, and 2 great shows. So we think it's well worth it. And as we've actually taken a lot of our customers and kind of recommended this to them, and we've gotten really positive feedback. And it helps. If you're aspirational and you want to grow your business, you got to look all around for different ideas, and shop.org is a great place to get them.
Okay. Well, for purposes of our listeners, we've been visiting with Scott Wingo. Scott is the CEO and co-founder of ChannelAdvisor. ChannelAdvisor being the pioneering e-commerce services company. It's 10 years old now this year. Scott was recently elected to the board of Shop.org, the trade group for online merchants. The Shop.org site is just what the name implies, shop.org. Scott's company, ChannelAdvisor, that website is ChannelAdvisor.com. That's ChannelAdvisor.com. And Scott Wingo, we want to thank you for your time today, sir.
Thanks, Kerry, and thanks, everyone, for listening.
Yep, thank you.
That's all the time we have for this week's e-commerce conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tune in next week for another new episode.